Yo, what is going on, guys? So I'm back with another video for you here today, and in this one we're going to be doing the comparison that I mentioned in my previous Apex Legends mobile video, where we're going to be comparing Apex Legends mobile versus Apex Legends on Switch. Now, they are technically different games because the mobile version is its own thing and the Switch version is the same version you'll find on PC and console, but they are both a portable version of Apex Legends. So we're gonna go ahead and look at the comparison and compare the graphics as well as the overall performance. That way you guys know exactly how the mobile version compares to the other portable version with the Switch, and that way you guys can make your own your own decision as to which version you guys should play if you have access to both platforms. Now, before we get into all of the technical details, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you guys go ahead and do that. It helps me out a ton, and I post daily mobile gaming content, so if you're interested in seeing that, make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe. But anyway, let's get into the video. So the footage you guys are watching now is the Nintendo Switch version, and I have to say the Nintendo Switch version of Apex Legends Mobile is definitely the worst version to play in terms of PC and consoles. Now, the reason why I say that is because the resolution is the worst that you're going to find compared to Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, and the frame rate is also the worst version. It's going to be at the very best 30 FPS compared to PlayStation and Xbox's 60 FPS, and of course on PC you have access to significantly higher frame rates like 120, 144, etc, etc. So if you're playing it on Switch, you're going to be playing against PC players, you're going to be playing it against PlayStation and Xbox players, and you're going to have the worst resolution, frame rate, and graphics overall in terms of all of those various versions. Now, as we can see here, it basically says we're looking at a maximum of 720p in docked play with a dynamic resolution scaling dropping to 1066 by 600. Portable play is 576p dynamic with a 960 by 540 minimum and a corresponding drop in the quality of texture filtering when stacked up against the docked experience. So what this means is if you have your Nintendo Switch plugged into the dock, at the very best you're going to be getting 720p, but it's going to drop as low as 600p. And if you're playing in handheld mode, you're going to be playing at 576p and it's going to drop as low as 540p. These are all really low resolutions considering that 1080p has been the standard for gaming and video content for the last 5 to 10 years. So the fact that you're not even going to be able to play at 1080p and you're barely going to be scraping by at 720p in the best scenarios just goes to show just how rough the Nintendo Switch version looks. On top of that, in Digital Foundry's analysis of the Nintendo Switch port of Apex Legends, they were able to see that the game frame rate actually drops to as low as 18 FPS while you're playing. Now, that is an incredibly low frame rate to play a first-person shooter. Now, obviously, it's not the average frame rate or anything like that. The game does target 30 FPS on Nintendo Switch, but it doesn't hit that 30 FPS consistently. I know when I play, it personally feels like I'm playing at 20 to 25 FPS, whether I'm playing on the TV or in handheld mode. So the resolution drops significantly. It's not even high to begin with, and the frame rate also drops significantly, so not even that part of it is consistent. Now here we're looking at the Apex Legends mobile version of the game, and this version, in my opinion, looks significantly better and runs significantly better than the Nintendo Switch version. As you can already tell, the graphics overall just look sharper, and this isn't even running the game at the highest settings. I personally play the game on balanced, which is basically medium settings. I also have the ultra frame rate option enabled, which means that I play it at 60 FPS, and as we were just talking about the frame rate on Switch, in the very best scenarios you're going to be getting 30 FPS, but it's not even consistent, so you're more likely than going to be expecting 20 to 25. This gives the mobile version a huge advantage because of the fact that you have the capability of playing it at a smooth 60 FPS, assuming that you have a device that can run the game at a consistent 60 FPS. Now this comparison is a little unfair to the Switch because the Switch does cost $300 brand new, and the Red Magic 6 that I'm playing the game on right now does cost about $600 US, so it is double the price of a Nintendo Switch. But there still are phones that cost just as much as the Nintendo Switch that can play the game even better than the Nintendo Switch can. One of the main reasons why the Switch version just struggles so much is because of the fact that it's running the same version of the game that plays on PC and the other consoles. I think that if they had ported Apex Legends Mobile to the Nintendo Switch, it would have ran significantly better. I actually made a video on this because I thought that it would have just been a cool thing to be able to play Apex Legends Mobile with Nintendo Switch players and mobile players, and I didn't think that it would be too much of an advantage for the Nintendo Switch players because of the fact that you do have more customization and stuff on mobile, and just overall I thought that it would have been a much better scenario than the one we have right now, because the version that exists on Switch right now is really rough looking and does not perform well at all. Now excuse the bad quality, I do not have a professional camera or lighting setup. This is just my iPhone recording me trying to capture some handheld gameplay to show you guys, but basically I wanted to show you a little bit as to how the game looks when you play it in handheld. Obviously this is not the best indication as to how it looks because again I don't have professional camera or lighting setup or anything like that, but I wanted to give you guys some idea as to what it looks like when you're actually playing it. I think the lower resolution and graphics are a little bit more serviceable in the handheld mode. You do notice a lot more of the game's flaws when you put it up onto a big TV, but when you're playing in handheld mode they're not that bad, but it's still one of the worst versions of the game to play if you have access to other versions, including the mobile version. It's just, it's low resolution, it kind of hurts your eyes after a while, the frame rate is not that good, and even the Joy-Cons aren't that good to actually use for first-person shooters. So overall it just doesn't look good, it doesn't run good, and it doesn't even feel that comfortable to play anyway. So I would definitely not recommend playing the Switch version if you have access to other consoles or if you have the mobile version. I also wanted to show some of the mobile gameplay that I was able to record. I wanted to show you guys just how much better it looks in my opinion. Again, you're not going to be able to tell fully because of the fact that my setup is a little scuffed, but anyway, I wanted to show you guys just how good it looks on mobile when you're actually playing it yourself, and in my opinion even just the frame rate itself just goes to show how much smoother and how much better the mobile version is. I mean, right now I'm playing it at 60 FPS, which is double that of the Nintendo Switch, and in the worst case scenarios it's actually triple the frame rate that you can expect on the Nintendo Switch, and it just feels a lot better to play. The graphics look a lot sharper and a lot cleaner, and the resolution actually looks like a high enough resolution to be fit on my phone. It doesn't look like I'm playing a 540p image on a 720p screen like it is on the Nintendo Switch. So not only do the graphics look better, but the game actually just runs significantly better. It looks cleaner, and because I'm used to the mobile controls, it just feels more comfortable to actually play versus the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons. Now, I've been saying how the graphics look better and the frame rate is better and stuff like that, but again, this is going to be depending on what mobile device you're actually playing, because if you're playing on an older phone or a budget phone, you're not going to have the same experience that I have playing on a gaming phone. So there are going to be some cases where your phone might be weak enough that the Nintendo Switch version of Apex Legends will actually look and run better than the version that you could play on your device. But for anyone who has like an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy phone or a tablet or anything that was made in the last 2 or 3 years, basically your experience on Apex Mobile is going to be significantly better than that on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I know I've been saying that basically mobile is better and that you should play the mobile version instead of the Switch version, but one thing to point out that the Nintendo Switch does have when it comes to an advantage is the fact that you can use actual controllers. So if you don't like the Joy-Cons, you can use like the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. You can use what I have, which is the SN30 Plus Pro, and basically you can just go ahead and use any other controller and actually make the game a little bit easier to play for yourself. And on mobile, you can only play with the touchscreen. So So if you're someone who's not that good with a touchscreen, then you're obviously going to have a hard time playing the mobile version, whereas you might actually do a lot better if you played with a legitimate controller on the Nintendo Switch version. And another thing to point out that has the advantage on the Nintendo Switch is that it's the same game that's running on PC and the other consoles, which means it gets the same updates. So anytime there's a new legend, new maps, new game modes and stuff, the Nintendo Switch version also gets that update. The mobile version, because it is a separate game, is missing a lot of the various legends and game modes that have been in the other versions of Apex Legends. So there are going to be some instances where you actually have more content on the Nintendo Switch and more up-to-date content on the Switch versus the mobile version. So if you're interested in being like one of those people that plays the latest legends and plays the latest game modes and stuff, well then you're probably going to find yourself waiting when it comes to the mobile version, because the Switch version does get those updates at the same time as PC and other consoles. But that's basically going to wrap it up for this comparison, guys. I think that both versions of the game have their advantages. Obviously on Switch you have the advantage of being able to play on the TV, you have the advantage of being able to use actual controllers, and you have the advantage of being able to have the latest updates with all of the latest content. But then you also have the mobile version that if you have the device that can run the game well, you can have better graphics, better frame rate, and if you're good on a touchscreen, then you might actually have even better controls than you could find on the Nintendo Switch. So it's really up to you as to which version is better for you. For me personally, I don't think that there's a reason for me to keep Apex Legends on my Nintendo Switch, because the mobile version is just significantly better for me. But anyway, that's gonna be it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little comparison. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video.